Here's what I want to do for just a few minutes, if you would indulge me. Can I just preach for just a little bit? Is that okay? Like 15, 20 minutes? 25? All right. Here's what I want to do. I want to give you the introductory talk to a brand new collection of talks that I'm super excited about. And here's what we've entitled this collection of talks. It's entitled Faith for the Middle. Come on. Somebody turn to your neighbor right now and say, Faith for the Middle. You got to say it with the syncopation, the emphasis. Faith for the middle. This has actually been a collection of talks that have been on my heart for a number of years now. I've just never really known when to share it, and I feel like the time is now, and so I'm really excited. It's actually based off of a story in the Bible, and it's a short story, but it's actually a relatively well-known story. It comes out of Matthew chapter 14. So if you have your Bibles, you could turn there. If not, Kevin's running the big Bible on the big screen. Matthew chapter 14. I want to read us this story this morning. And I think I left my Bible here somewhere in the building last week, so I don't even know where my Bible is, but we'll just read it off the big Bible. Are you all ready? Yes. Okay. Let's do it. All right, appreciate that. It says, immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat. I almost brought a boat today just for demonstrative, illustrative purposes, but we got too many things on stage. So this is our boat, all right? So Jesus tells the disciples to get in the boat and go on ahead of them to the other side. Somebody say the other side. While he dismissed the crowd. What we're going to discover is that Jesus just did a miracle with the disciples, fed the 5,000, which is really 10,000, 15,000, because they didn't include the woman and the kids. So about 15,000 people got fed with some couple loaves of fish and some bread. And he sends them out. Next verse. Oh, that is the next verse. Gotcha. After he dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone. And the boat was already a considerable distance from the land. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. Buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. So can you picture the scene? Jesus sends out the disciples in the boat. Now they're a considerable distance away from where it used to be. So imagine this boat moving. They're moving along. And here's what happens next. Shortly before dawn, somebody say dawn. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. It's called the Sea of Galilee, but Sea of Galilee is kind of deceiving because it actually is more like the size of a lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. And they said, it's a ghost, they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage, it is I, don't be afraid. I love this next part. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, Jesus said. How many know you ought to be careful what you wish for? Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink. Cried out, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith. Somebody say faith. You of little faith, he said. Why did you doubt? And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshiped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. We stop right there. I love this story. I love this passage. And that's why we're going to actually spend the next several weeks in this passage. Maybe a couple months. We'll see how the Spirit leads. But I want to talk about this idea of faith for the middle. And that's what I've titled my talk today. If you're a note taker and you like to take notes, you can write that down. Faith for the middle is what I want to talk about today. And, I don't know about you. I was thinking about this. Like, what comes to mind for you when you think about the middle? What comes to mind when you think about the middle? Maybe for you, I don't know, you thought what came to mind was maybe like middle child, right? Any middle children in the house? No middle children? Middle child? Shout out to J. Cole. What a middle school, right? What else comes to mind when you think about the middle? Middle age, hey. Middle management. How many of y'all thought middle finger? Oh, don't put those up right now. Anything else comes to mind when you think about the middle? Middle seat? Okay, middle seat. What was that? Oh, you said middle seat. Sumi said middle seat. Middle class. Okay, middle class. A gas tank? Yeah. One of the things I thought about, sorry, someone said something over here? A middle side? Okay, yeah. I thought about, I was thinking when I thought about the middle, I was like, I'm busy, don't bother me because I'm in the middle of something. I'm in the middle of my homework. I'm in the middle of a project. Here's the one thing that immediately came to mind when I was thinking about the middle, though. It's actually a game, and it's called Monkey in the Middle. Y'all remember that game? Where my kids at? Y'all know that game? Right? It's like 3 people typically play, and there's one person here. I almost feel like we should do a demonstration. Should we do a demonstration? Just to jog our memories? You usually have one person here, and then you got the monkey in the middle. All right, let's do a demo. Who wants to do a demonstration? We got kids in the building. Let's entertain them for a little bit. I need 2 adults, 2 grown adults, tall adults too. All right, come on. First 2 to come down, and then I need 1 child. You don't got to be a middle child, just a child. Give me a child. I need 1 more adult and 1 child. Hey, we got Jeffy in the house. Tell us your name. Jeff, that's Jeff. Don't mess with Jeff. That's my bodyguard. Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Kayla.
This is Kayla. All right, we need a child. Come on. We need you. Oh, Amy's trying to get up there? Kai? Oh, Kai's coming. Kyrie. Tell us your name, young man.
Kyrie.
This is Kyrie right here. Give it up for Kyrie. So, I came prepared because I figured y'all wanted a demonstration, so I actually brought a ball. But y'all remember how it works, right? So you have adult here. Go ahead and move up here so you could be on the TV. And we got the 2 adults here. And here's the object of the game, right? Is the adults throw it to each other, and they're trying to keep it away, right, from little man Kyrie. And Kyrie, what's Kyrie trying to do? What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to get it.
You're trying to get that ball, right? So here's kind of how the game works, right? And here, adults, don't let Kyrie get it. All right, let me tell you a secret. Don't let little Kyrie get it, okay? Don't let him. All right, here we go. Keep that ball up high. All right, go. So this is how it works, right? Go ahead. Just throw that up. There we go. Kai, you gotta try to get it. Right, so, yeah, come on. You can get that, Kai. Get up, Kai. Oh, no, you're not supposed to do that. Yeah, no. So this is for demonstrative purposes. Let me tell you a little secret. I used to love this game as a kid. Keep going. Demonstrate. Y'all got to keep working. I used to love this game as a kid, except one really big exception. Guess what that exception was? When I was little Kyrie. When I was a little monkey in the middle, right? You can keep throwing it. Right? Don't worry. I got something for Kyrie. I got something for him. We're going to pay him. Can I make a suggestion? See, isn't it true that after a while, when you're monkey in the middle, you can't steal the ball? I think sometimes it feels like you're kind of, I don't know, stuck, right? and after a while, isn't it true that you start to get frustrated, right? Keep going, keep throwing that, right? Like no matter how hard you try, no matter how high you jump, right? No matter how many times Kyrie runs back and forth, it's like no matter what he does, he just can't get the ball. Can I suggest, I think over time, is it true, Kyrie, that you're like, maybe this game's over. Maybe I just want to quit. Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. My demonstration is quickly failing. Let's give it up for one time for Kyrie. And Kyrie, I got a little something for you later. Don't worry, I got you. We're going to pay you for your acting skills. Give it up to Kayla and Jeff. Thank you so much for our demonstrators. Listen. I don't know if you've ever been little Kyrie, but I used to kind of be that kid, the little scrawny Asian kid playing with the big kids, and you get stuck in the middle. Can I suggest that after a while, you're kind of like, this is not fun anymore, right? This is frustrating. This is exhausting. This is demoralizing. This is discouraging. I don't know if you've ever been little Kyrie, little monkey in the middle, but I wonder if we all know what it feels like to be monkey in the middle. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? I wonder if some of us, we know what it feels like to feel stuck in the middle, that no matter how hard you try, no matter how high you jump, no matter how fast you run back and forth, no matter what you do, you don't make any progress and you find yourself still stuck in the middle. Do you know what it feels like? I felt like what it felt like to be stuck in the middle. I remember growing up as a kid, In case you couldn't tell, I'm Asian American. Any Asians in the building? More specifically, I'm an ABC, American-born Chinese, right? And I remember feeling stuck in the middle because I was too American to be really Chinese, but too Chinese to really be American. Stuck in the middle. I grew up going to a school on Mercer Island that was a predominantly, back in the day, a affluent white school. But while I was going to school growing up, I still went to church and youth group at a Chinese immigrant church in South Seattle, Beacon Hill. And I remember, like, I was never white enough and rich enough to fit in with the kids at school, but I was never hood enough or Asian enough to really fit in with the kids at church. I was stuck in the middle. Even as a pastor sometimes, I felt called to the ministry. People told me I had some gifts, and I was like, maybe I do. And so I tried being a pastor, but then I felt ill-equipped, and I felt not spiritual enough, and I felt like I didn't have enough theological education, and I felt stuck in the middle. Even when we started this church, can I let you in on a little secret? We started this church, like, I had some grand visions of what this church was going to look like. And 9 years later, this is beautiful, by the way. I'm not minimizing this. But where our church is at is not where I had envisioned, right? I had a vision for something. I started out on the journey, but 9 years later, I have yet to actually see it come to fruition. I felt stuck in the middle. Have you ever felt stuck in the middle? Right, where you leave something for another something. You leave a previous destination, you're en route, you're in process, you're on the journey to another destination, and you thought to yourself, I'll be there in 2 weeks. I'll be there in 3 months, but 3 months turned into 6 months, and 6 months into a year into 5, and 5 into 10, and now we're talking decades, and I'm still stuck in the middle. Maybe some of you are there right now. Today. I don't know. I'm just guessing with the crowd this size, those watching. Maybe some of you feel like you're stuck in the middle right now. You've left one opportunity for another. You left one job for another job. You've left one career for another career, one business for another business, one relationship for another relationship. You left one church for another church. You left one set of theological convictions and beliefs for another set of theological convictions and beliefs, but for whatever reason, you haven't landed. You haven't got to the other side. You're still stuck in the middle. And can I suggest, I think after a while, it feels a little depressing and discouraging and demoralizing and exhausting, so much so that you get to the point where maybe just like little Kyrie, you're like, I'm just going to quit. Now, Kyrie didn't want to quit, but most people want to quit. Most people want to throw in the towel. Most people want to give up, right? Why am I still, why haven't I got, why didn't I graduate yet? Why didn't I get that promotion yet? Why am I not married yet? Why don't I got my kids yet? Why don't I own a house yet, right? Like, we're stuck in the middle. And can I just encourage you, if that's you today? Here's my encouragement. You're not alone. I need you to hear that. You're not the only one. In fact, can I suggest this? I like to propose that most of life is actually spent living somewhere in the middle. In between point A and point B, right? This hard, difficult, sometimes depressing, in between liminal space, right? So, I mean, there come points in times where we feel like we've arrived, right? But can I suggest, as soon as you've arrived in one area of your life, there's about 20 other areas that you look at and you're like, why am I still on the journey? Why am I still en route? Why have I not yet achieved or stepped into the thing that I feel like I'm supposed to? When we get to our story this morning, this is what I love about our story this morning. In Matthew chapter 14, do you realize the disciples, Jesus' inner 12, they too found themselves stuck in the middle. Do you realize that? And here's what's so interesting, right? The story tells us that Jesus sends them off ahead of them in a boat, right? And the Bible tells us that they're a considerable distance away. So what it means is that they've actually left their previous destination. Somebody say previous destination. They've left their previous destination. They're now a considerable amount away from the shore. But here's what we discover. That en route, they encounter a storm. Anybody like storms? I mean, there's storms right now that are literally wreaking havoc in some places, Florida, Puerto Rico, right? And some of y'all maybe are experiencing some storms even in your own life. And here's the thing about storms, right? It's like I'm just trying to get from point A to point B, but then all of a sudden the storm hits. All of a sudden you get the diagnosis. All of a sudden you're just trying to get married, but then a pandemic hits, right? And so here's what happens with the disciples. They're en route. They're trying to get to the other side, but then they got caught in a storm. And here's what's so interesting. Here's what I want us to see. Do you realize that the Sea of Galilee is actually not that big? That's why the Bible refers to it sometimes as a lake. It's actually 8 miles wide at the widest point. So theologians, historians, scholars think that really and again, these are professional boat rowers. They're fishermen, right? This is what they do for a living. So it actually, think about this. It should only take them from point A to point B. If the wind is in their favor and the weather conditions are good, it should only take them about 1 to 2 hours. But what we discover from the text is that they've been rowing for a lot longer than 1 to 2 hours. In fact, it's probably been more like 7, 8, 9 hours. Can you imagine? It's like sitting in traffic, you know what I mean, on the 405, right? It should only take me 30 minutes, but now 2 hours I'm sitting in traffic. And so you can imagine, they're frustrated. They're angry, right? The Bible tells us that the wind and the waves are beating against the boat. So not only are they upset, but like they're literally drowning. And they're like Kyrie, and they're rowing as hard as they can, and they're doing everything in their power to get to the other side, but they're stuck in the middle. The disciples understood what it felt like to be stuck in the middle. But here's what I love about the story, and I'm done. I told you I'm going to try to preach a short one. Here's the good part. Here's why hopefully you came to church today. You're going to get encouraged. Because here's what happens in worship team. You can come up. I'm literally going to finish soon. I promise. Disciples are stuck in the middle. They're considerable distance from the shore. They're not where they want to be. They're not where they used to be, but they're definitely not where they want to be. We know the feeling, stuck in the middle. But guess what happens in the middle? What does the story teach us? Who shows up in the middle? Jesus. Can I just encourage somebody today? I know the middle is hard, and you're feeling it right now. Maybe you thought the other day that maybe I should just call it quits and give up because that's how hard it's been. Can I just remind you that in the 9th hour, in the 11th hour, this is when Jesus shows up. I just need to remind somebody here today, because maybe you got to the place where you're like, I don't know if I got any more left in the tank. Can I just encourage you? I think Jesus wants to show up for you. You might have came to church today thinking, maybe God's abandoned me. Maybe God's forgotten about me. Maybe God doesn't care or even love me. Because why have I been in the middle for so long? I'm just trying to find somebody to spend the rest of my life with. Like, why is it taking so long? Is there something wrong with me? No, nothing's wrong with you. I think Jesus wants to encounter you in the middle. Jesus wants to show up for you in the middle. And here's the best part. Here's the best part about the story. Do you know what happens when Jesus shows up in the middle? A miracle happens. Do you realize that? A miracle happens. Now, a lot of people are like, well, the miracle is Jesus walking on the water, and that's what our Bible tells us because that's what the little heading says, Jesus walks on water. Can I just suggest, that's kind of cool. Like, Jesus walking on water, that's kind of dope, right? But if Jesus is really God, and God created the heavens and the earth and the land and the sea, then like, Jesus, God walking on water, like, hashtag no big deal. Here's what I want to see. I don't think that was the miracle. At least that's not from my vantage point. You know what the miracle is? It's not about Jesus walking on water. It's about who walking on water. There's nobody dude named Peter. Fisherman Peter. This is what we see. Because Jesus shows up on the water in the middle of the storm, in the middle of the Sea of Galilee, Peter has a walk on water moment. Peter experiences a miracle. What's the last time you walked on water? Can you imagine what that would have done for his faith? I guarantee you that's probably top 5 on his bucket list. Probably not even on the bucket list, because who even has walking on water as a bucket list? It's not possible. But yet what happens? Peter experiences this crazy encounter with Jesus, so much so that Peter experiences a miracle in the middle of his storm. In the middle of the sea. Church, can I just encourage some of us? I don't know what your middle looks like right now. But here's what I believe with all my heart. That I believe that you too can have a walk on water moment, just like Peter. That God wants you to experience a walk on water. I think God wants you to experience some miracles even in the middle. Anybody want that for their lives? If most of life is spent living in the middle, I would suggest that you might want to start experiencing some miracles while you're at it, right? But here's what it takes. What did it take for Peter to walk on water? Did you notice? How many out of all those 12 disciples got up out of that boat? Just Pete. Just little man Pete. And what does Scripture tell us? Why? Well, it's because he has some faith. Did you realize that? See, what allows Peter to experience and encounter this miracle in the middle of a storm, in the middle of the sea, is because he had some faith. Now granted, some of you are like, he didn't have much faith because he started drowning after like 3 steps. And Jesus is like, yo, you have little faith. Why, you know? And we kind of see like, we almost read it as if like Jesus is scolding him for having too little faith. Can I suggest at least he had some faith? Because nobody else in the boat had enough faith to get up out of that water. But Peter, he didn't have a lot of faith. He just had a little bit of faith. Just a little bit. And it changed his life forever. Let me tell you why we're going to be in this journey for the next several weeks, maybe months. Because I want you to not quit. I want you to not give up. I want you to get some faith just like Peter. And it doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. Because when you could just have a little bit of faith, there's a miracle waiting for you to happen in the middle. Jesus wants to encounter you. And you'll never be the same. And so that's the journey that we're on. So I'll encourage you to come back, because we're going to be talking about, we're going to just stay in this passage, and we're going to uncover and unpack and explore together and have conversations about, like, what did Peter do? How does Peter have faith for the middle so that he could actually experience the miracle in the middle? Do you want that for yourselves? Come on, I want that for us. I want that for our community. You know, I was thinking a lot about this, as I was reflecting on this anniversary, 9 years in the making. And I don't know, anniversaries, kind of like birthdays, I always got like mixed feelings. Anybody have mixed feelings on their birthdays? Anniversaries? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Should I celebrate this? So I was reflecting a lot about like this anniversary, and I was like, 9 years, that's a lot, but like 9 years just didn't feel that special. You know, 1 year is special, right? 5 years, 10 years, 7 because it's biblical. 3 is biblical too. 7 is biblical. So 3, 7, like 9, right? I was like, this is not that special. Like, we shouldn't make a big deal out of this. And then I felt like God reminded me, no, this is a big deal. And let me tell you why. And I'll try to be can I just leave you with one last little story? Some of you know this who have been part of our journey over the past year. But I think why 9 is special is because actually we almost didn't make it to 9. And I'll let you in on a little secret. I was kind of done. Like the pandemic, I thought I was done at 5 years. And then God told me to stay longer and quit your other jobs and just be a pastor. And the pandemic hits. I'm like, I don't know if I can make it through to the end of the pandemic. And then God's like, just hold on just a little bit longer, because things are going to start opening back up. And then things open back up. We got into BYT, and all of a sudden Delta hits. And then Omicron hits, and we had to close it down. I'm like, God, can I just quit already? And so by the time we got to last spring, like, I'll be honest with you, and I sound like a really horrible pastor, but I was done. And Pastor Sam has heard me tell him, pretty much every week that I'm ready to quit. But I was like, no, I think this is it. I'm having a conversation with the board. And before I had the conversation with the board and the elders, I was so in my feelings that I sent out this email to the church. Some of y'all remember the email? And people were like, what's this email, right? Because it was like, the future of Common Good Church. Come out to this meeting because we got some important news to share. And at that point, I was so like in my feelings that I was like, I was gonna actually just tell everybody, I think we got 6 months left, and let's call it good. Let's go to the end of the fiscal year. That was my plan. That's why that I sent that email without the permission of Sam and the elders. And then we met, and they're like, you should probably like be a little more encouraging and uplifting. And what if new people are coming to the church? You tell them that you're going to shut down in 6 months. Like, they're probably not going to come back, because why would you go to a church that's about to close, And I was like, you're right. So, of course, like, we switched it up. I was like, hey, y'all, ignore that email. We going for it. All that to say, we almost didn't make it here. truthfully. So 9 years is kind of a big deal. And as I was thinking about and reflecting on this, had I quit, had I given up, had I not had Sam and some elders say, you know what, maybe you should reconsider. Maybe you should have a little faith. You shouldn't say things like that, you know what I mean? I think we say that a little too often in the church. Just have some faith and you'll get healed. That's not how they said it to me. But here's what I realized. Had I not had a little bit of faith, I didn't have much. Had I not just had a little bit, we wouldn't be here today. This wouldn't be happening. And I certainly won't be experiencing the miracle that I'm about to experience, and it's my little miracle, and I'm kind of selfish about it, but my 3 kids are about to be baptized today. And I was thinking about that. You know, when I became a pastor, I didn't come out of the womb a pastor. I didn't come out of college as a pastor. Like, it took me a while just to, like, embrace the call, but I thought really long and hard about if I were to become a pastor, what would happen to my kids? Because you hear the stories. Obviously, there's really good PKs like Sam and Sumi and Rachel. You know, I mean, there's good ones that work out, but you hear, like, you know, the other 95% that don't work out, and I was like, I don't want that for my kids. Like, I want them to be able to choose into a faith on their own, but I certainly don't want them to be tainted because of some horrific experiences in the church. And granted, they've seen a lot. They've seen the good, bad, and the ugly over the 9 years. They've seen me, right? My kids call me out on so many things you won't even believe it. Y'all think I'm a great person, but, you know, talk to my kids and they'll tell you the truth. Sometimes they're like, Dad, why are you yelling at me? Because didn't you just preach like, you know, I'm like, oh, you're right. So can I suggest it's a miracle, church, that my kids are choosing to be baptized today. And here's what I was thinking. We almost didn't get here. We almost didn't get here. Can I encourage you, just don't quit yet. I know you want to. Don't throw in the towel just yet. Keep coming back, because we're going to talk about how to have some faith for the middle, so that you too can have some walk on water moments. I'm going to invite my kids up right now. Come on, kids.